Welcome back to gearwire.com. I am Owen O'Malley, and you are hearing me talk through the Tascam DR-1 portable digital stereo recorder. The DR-1 has these two Electret stereo microphones built in. It's actually, I guess, one stereo pair of Electret microphones, arranged in a pretty wide pickup pattern, I think about 120 degrees it looks like. And they are adjustable. You can get this little roll bar on the top, make loud adjustments. And there are a couple of cool features that set this thing apart from the other field recorders in the field of field recorders. It has a rechargeable battery, rechargeable Tascam battery, lithium-ion battery. It takes SD cards, which is not so unique, but it does have this cool jog dial, which allows for pretty easy menu navigation and also navigation within audio files themselves. And it records up to 24-bit and 48K, so better than CD quality audio recording is capable with the Tascam DR-1. It's got a couple of inputs. On the top, it's got a stereo microphone input. It can supply enough phantom power to power a sort of mini stereo microphone. Tascam has come out with a few stereo condenser microphones that are compatible with this. There's a stereo line in mini jack, and on the bottom of the guide there's a 1/4-inch jack for microphone or instrument. Let's take a closer look at some of the menu options and other input options on this guy. So we're in record standby mode, which is why you can hear me through the line/headphone out right here. If we were to press this again, we'd start recording a file. On the side of the unit right here, sorry for the handling noise, quite a bit of handling noise on this actually, we've got our SD slot and our USB cord out. Also got our power button, our on and off button, you just hold it down for a certain amount of time, and our hold button, and a 5-volt in. There's an optional charger to charge the rechargeable battery. The battery also recharges via USB. On the other side here we have our settings button, which are specifically for the input settings. Every other setting is accessible through the menu button on the front here. We'll go through the settings, input settings in a second, but here's the input gain control. A nice continuous gain pot, so you can actually sort of adjust your gain on the fly as you're recording. We've got our output volume here, which is sort of just a touch button, volume output, and there's a thing called mix balance. Now the mix balance is kind of a unique thing. You can actually have the unit playing back and be monitoring the input on the built-in microphones, or if you have a microphone plugged into it at the same time. It's basically the same thing as the mix control, sort of record playback, or rather playback or direct mix control on like the old M-Box or other USB interfaces. It's a nice little songwriting tool. Let's click on the settings here and check out these settings on the menu. Okay, so these are the input settings, and I'm going to navigate them with the little, this sort of like scroll wheel here, which is a very handy little quick thing. You can see we've got our, well, here's our backlight that comes on. That's one of the settings you can change. We've got our gain control. We've got our type of gain, or type of input, which you can do stereo or mono input, depending on what sources you've selected. You can turn power on and off for the phantom power supply for mic input 1. We've got our low cut here. Let's listen to this real quick. This is a preset sort of low cut amount. Right now it's off. If we scroll up here, now we've got it 40 hertz. Now we've got it at 80 hertz. Now we've got it at 120 hertz, which cuts down a little bit on the handling noise and also cuts out a lot of sort of background rumble. So here we go. So now it's off again, and you can hear the gearwire HVAC, which is our friend. Now we've got our level control, which is basically your sort of compressor limiter. If you turn it on limit, now it's just a hard limit. And if we put it on auto, oh, it takes a really, really long time to recover when it's on auto. So that's interesting. And that's about it for the settings here, the input settings. Now, in order to access the rest of the settings, you actually have to turn off the input monitoring by hitting stop. So we'll just do that real quick. You could take a look at the menu settings. Now the interesting thing, I don't know if you caught that in that little flyby, but this guy has a built-in metronome and a built-in tuner, which is pretty cool. It's really tailored quite a bit more towards the sort of solo guitarist who's either doing like singer-songwriter recording, or even just doing sort of like more complex layered guitar stuff that they want to demo. It's really more geared towards guitarists than other field recorders. So the buttons on the front here, we've got stop home, we've got which is navigational and also obviously stops playback, record pause button, which blinks when you're in standby mode and is solid red when you're recording, play and pause in our jog wheel. We've got track forward and track back. The loop is really interesting. You can actually, when you're listening back to a file, you can set the input and output loop points of a file and just listen to one section of a song, which is really cool for, again, for guitar training. You can just load a song onto here and listen to the part that you really want to learn sort of without having to keep rewinding. Also kind of cool for guitar training is this, well, it's called pitch bend control, but its preset is actually just to slow down the time without changing the pitch. Again, another feature that's geared towards guitar training. There's effects right here. Whoop, there you go. You can hear a little reverb, and you can turn it off. You can actually go into your record settings and sort of change what effects your effect setting is preset to. Let's turn the effects off. And your input and output select, well, we get a stop to. Your input and output is actually what sets your loop in and out. Let's just listen back to a file that I have recorded. You may have heard these guys before, but this is my band in their rehearsal space. A very acoustically poor rehearsal space. Let's just listen back to what this guy can do in that kind of setting. So as you can hear, it kind of, the mics distort a little bit when you're in a really loud setting. Even when it was just the guitar playing, it kind of started distorting a little bit. I did have the limiter on. I didn't have the low cut on, but the low frequencies weren't really the problem. It was just kind of a really high SPL. Started overloading the mics a little bit, but as you can hear, a pretty wide, pretty even frequency response across the spectrum. That's really what you're looking for. In a field recorder, you want to have an even frequency response to get every frequency in the spectrum of whatever environment you are recording in. So that was a general overview of the Tascam DR-1. In the next video, we're actually going to use it to record a little bit of guitar and vocal and play it back, and you'll kind of get an idea of how this thing could work as a sort of songwriting tool. So check it out, our next video on the Tascam DR-1. I'm Owen O'Malley, and you've been watching gearwire.com.